Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's LinkedIn Live, where we're looking at transitioning from accidental managers to intentional leaders. My name is Cara Cuniff, and I'm founder of ThriveWell Global. We're a people and performance consultancy, and we develop leaders to influence. We develop leaders to have positive impact, and we develop leaders who can foster teams with strong culture, strong positivity, and in essence, to be able to do the job that they were brought into the organization to do. So it's a joy to have you with me today. So, transitioning from accidental leader to intentional leaders. Let's start by looking at a poll that I held earlier in the week. And this was looking at why leadership fails and which specific leadership failings do you see on LinkedIn or you experience the most. We polled micromanagement as being a leadership failing. We polled lack of self-awareness being a leadership failing, people pleasing, and a lack of emotional intelligence. Of those four, the most prevalent failing that you all came up with was a lack of emotional intelligence, and that being a leadership failing. Secondly, it was a lack of self-awareness. Now, actually, a lack of self-awareness moves into a lack of emotional intelligence. We've also got micromanagement as being a leadership failing. 28% of you thought that was the most prevalent issue for leadership. And then finally, we've got people pleasing. So maybe that's because you are not able to have difficult conversations or know, how to call out toxic behavior. So we're going to explore those failings in context of why an accidental manager may suffer from those and how we move you into intentional leadership so that you're able to be more effective in your role as a leader. In 1995, I was fresh out of university and I started to work for a large telecommunications organization. I was excited, I was full of life. All I wanted to do was my best. But within 1 year, I wanted to quit. The reason? My team leader. My team leader was critical, he was controlling, and he lacked an understanding of his impact on others. That took me to a place where I didn't want to be part of that team anymore. He micromanaged, but the thing is, he didn't know any better because he was an accidental leader. So what is an accidental leader? Well, this is somebody who has been moved into a leadership role because maybe they've been in an organization for, the last 10 years, and just by time served or by their technical ability, the organization has decided it's now their time to become a leader. But the thing is, have they had any supportive training to move them into that role? Sometimes we call it a magic weekend. Have they had that magic weekend where on a Friday they are a team member and they wake up on Monday morning and suddenly they're a leader? And over the course of that weekend, they're just supposed to have developed and embedded all of those leadership skills that we know every leader needs in order to be effective. So this causes a very large problem for organizations. And in a poll recently held by the Chartered Management Institute, 82% of those polled, so 4,500, 82% of 4,500 people polled said that they had never had any training when they moved into a leadership role. That's significant. If you were building a bridge, would you employ an engineer to design your bridge who'd never been trained? If you were, building your business and bringing in an accountant to run your books, would you bring in an accountant who had never been trained? I don't think so. So why do we accept that within the world of leadership? Why do we expect employees, team members, managers to move into a leadership role without the appropriate training? Now, this comes down to the fact that we don't prepare our leaders for training, effective leadership training, on an ongoing basis. We don't embed continuous learning within organizations for our leaders. And as Simon Sinek said in one of my previous LinkedIn posts this week, leadership training is never done. It is always something that we should be working on in any capacity, whether you're a junior employee taking on maybe your first leadership role, or maybe you're a member of the senior leadership team. Leadership training is never done. And the impact of poor leadership training has a roll-on effect on really three critical areas. On the individuals within the teams. Those individuals suffer from reduced job satisfaction. It can add additional stress to them when they have a leader who, maybe a team leader who isn't supportive, lacks empathy, and just doesn't know how to lead, doesn't know how to build relationships. And it can also reduce the morale of that person, which then has a roll-on effect into the team. So the impact on the team is lack of trust, lack of cohesion, lack of collaboration, and often poor communication. But the thing is, these are all things that can be trained. And so there is no reason why we should be in this position. The impact actually on the overall business is staff who are less engaged, and we know that's a fact with the quiet quitting and loud quitting statistics that we're facing at the moment. It's also lower productivity. Businesses are being affected by lower productivity because their leaders aren't able to lead in an effective manner. And subpar performance. And when I say that, what I mean is, in order to perform, we need to work to our potential and reduce the interferences. Well, an ineffective leader adds to interferences that stop the business from achieving their outcome, their task, their mission, their purpose. And by embedding leadership training, you can reduce these interferences and affect change and develop and grow your business, scale your business. So what can we do? What practical steps can we do as an individual and as a business in order to move our employees, our members of our business that we have decided ought to be on the leadership track? What can we do to empower them to be the best when they come to work? Well, the first thing is it's actually really quite simple. It's learning to delegate, learning how to effectively delegate, and therefore not micromanage and control. I'm sure we've all been in situations where we've had a micromanager, overlooking what we're doing, inputting all the time, and it actually adds stress to the team. The number of times I mention the word accidental manager and the response I get was, gosh, I know a lot of those, or I was one of those myself. Let's change that. So other practical steps we can do is we can enable a development of emotional intelligence. So what that will do is that will allow the individual to put their best foot forward, to understand their impact on the team, their behaviors on the team, but it will also allow them to read their team better, to understand what's going on for their team in a more effective way. And that builds trust. That builds relationships. And through relationships, we develop supportive, and the scientific word is we develop exemplary followers who want to achieve the business aim, who are passionate about the goals of the business. What emotional intelligence also does is it fosters a positive culture. It develops team morale in a positive direction. Then we have, thirdly, in terms of practical steps, being able to have difficult conversations. Many of us avoid difficult conversations. Last week's LinkedIn Live was about how to have a difficult conversation. If this is something that you struggle with, go back and look at last week's live, which is, handling difficult conversations. It is important for a leader to be able to call out toxic behavior. That happens through difficult conversations. It's important that a leader is able to have, to offer constructive feedback. Sometimes that is a difficult conversation or a perceived difficult conversation. So those three steps are, learning how to delegate, developing your emotional intelligence, and learning how to have difficult conversations, because there is a formula for that. Once you've done that, what that enables you to do as a leader is be able to set very clear expectations for the team, because you are delegating effectively and you have taken yourself up to the more strategic level rather than being within the tactical level all the time. That's why you have a team to work on the tactical stuff, so that it allows you to think more clearly and make more effective decisions. It also allows you to build strong relationships with your team and enable regular check-ins to make sure your team are okay, to find out what's going on for them, and to develop, as I said before, exemplary followers. And then once you've learned how to delegate, learn how to handle difficult conversations, what this does is this enables you to focus on growth, on achievements, on the positives. It's about building the team. So it's about celebrating publicly achievements so that the business can grow positively. It's also about encouraging continuous learning for yourself and the team, because you've taken away some of the other noise, like delegating, like how to have difficult conversations, like how to manage emotions. You've just removed those interferences so that you can actually think about how to learn, train, and develop your team positively. And finally, moving all that noise offers you to offer constructive feedback so that your team can grow and scale, and ultimately the business can grow and scale. So we've looked at how to transition from the accidental leader to the intentional leader, or the accidental manager to the intentional leader. But the essence of that is it's all embedded in training. It's embedded in, how to perform better. And a recent statistic by Gallup commented that 10% of managers possess the natural, innate ability to lead. The rest of the 90% is learned. So at the Leadership Advantage, the work we do, we develop leaders to be able to do those things. So please feel free to DM me if you want to move your people from accidental managers to intentional leaders who can lead with impact, with influence, and be able to positively affect change. We're going to pop a couple of links below. One is our Resilience Scorecard. Would love you to take our Resilience Scorecard. And finally, I'm going to offer you the opportunity for your business to have an insights call with me to find out, for me to understand what's happening within your organization, for us to open a dialogue in terms of working out how we can develop your leaders in the most effective way. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you shortly on the next live. I wish you all a great week.